Mother-in-law deliberately infected my daughter with chickenpox. I'm livid, she doesn't think it's a big deal. I can hardly type this out because thinking about it makes me so angry. Earlier this year my husband, 31M, and I decided to spend Christmas with his family for the first time since my daughter was born last September. Since they live 12 hours away, we decided to stay for a few weeks before Christmas so they could spend loads of time with Annie, 13 months. We arrived early like we planned and everything was great. I've had a few disagreements with my mother-in-law Trish, 56F, in the past over my parenting style. She criticized me for using disposable diapers, buying baby food from the supermarket and not raising Annie as an organic baby, but everything seemed great. After a day or two settling in, my husband and I decided to pick up a few gifts from a mall around an hour away before the last-minute rush kicked in. My father-in-law, a 60M, tagged along. Trish said she was happy to take care of Annie. We got back a few hours later and Annie was down for a nap on a blanket I didn't recognize. Trish said one of her friends dropped by and gave it as an early Christmas gift. It looked pretty old worn, but I figured one of her hippie friends was just recycling it. The next 2 weeks were fine, aside from Trish making a point to prepare meals for Annie from scratch. I mentioned this to my husband and he said to just let her be. Annie mostly mushed the food Trish gave her with her hands through the bowls on the floor, as she's been doing at the moment. Trish said it would take her a while to get used to nutritious meals. I was getting sick of her meddling, but it was only for a few weeks, so for the sake of the holidays I let it slide. The day after Christmas Annie was really unsettled and wouldn't stop fidgeting and crying. I took her temperature and she had a fever, so I kept an eye on her for the next few days and it thankfully started to go down. This morning, she started to get a rash and blisters on her arms and legs and I freaked out. I was packing a bag to drive to see a doctor when Trish asked where I was going. I told her Annie had a rash and I was taking her to see a doctor. She got a weird smug smile on her face and told me there was nothing to worry about. When I asked her what she was talking about, she said without even looking at Annie that what she had was just chickenpox. I asked her how she could possibly know that and she casually admitted one of her friend's grandkids had chickenpox a few weeks ago, so she asked them to wipe a blanket over the child's arms, legs and face and bring it to her house. At this point I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I asked if that blanket was the gift Annie was sleeping on. She said it was. I lost my shit. To be honest, I don't really remember what I said because I was up most of the night for 2 days checking on Annie. I just unleashed on Trish asking what the fuck was wrong with her. My husband and father-in-law came to try to calm things down and Trish dug in her heels and said chickenpox was the best and most natural thing for Annie to build up her immunity. I already have a vaccination schedule in place with my pediatrician and she was booked in to get immunized for chickenpox at 18 months. We drove to see the doctor and he confirmed she had it. He said I'll have to cut Annie's nails short and might have to tape socks on her hands while she sleeps because kids so young can scratch until they bleed and that will leave scars. On the drive back my husband started making excuses for Trish, that she was only doing what she thought was best. I couldn't believe he was defending her and we fought most of the way home until I told him to stop talking to me. Annie's been scratching like crazy and I just had to tape socks over her hands. Trish tried to talk to me when we got back and I told her to get out of my sight. We were meant to stay until Wednesday, but I just finished packing up our stuff so we can leave first thing in the morning. I'm so angry I can't even think. Whenever I hear Trish moving around in the kitchen my heart starts beating faster and I feel like going out there and grabbing her by the hair. I don't ever want to see her again or let my daughter see her again. What can I say to make her and my husband realize the enormity of what she's done? I don't think I can speak coherently to their faces until Annie gets better. TL.dr. Mother-in-law deliberately infected my daughter with chickenpox. I'm so angry I feel like physically harming her. I need advice on what to say to make her realize what she's done. Relevant comments. When asked why her daughter wasn't vaccinated for chickenpox, she's up to date on her vaccination schedule. She was vaccinated for measles a month ago and booked in to get the chickenpox vaccine at 18 months old, as normal. Top comments. Fruit punching. If someone did this to my child, deliberately infecting them with a disease without discussing it with me, with the malicious intent of undermining my parenting to teach me a lesson, they'd never see my child for extended periods or unsupervised again. Deleted. Your husband better step up and act like a father and stop acting like a son. Update. Thank you to everyone for your comments, inbox messages and advice after my original post. I read all the comments and messages and they genuinely helped, especially the home remedies on how to stop itching. Since my first post was locked and deleted, I hope it's okay to briefly summarize here. Over the holidays my mother-in-law Trish, 56F, deliberately infected my daughter Annie, 1F, with chickenpox by wrapping her in an infected blanket while she was left alone with her for several hours. Trish didn't tell anyone what she had done until Annie came down with a horrible fever and rash. Annie was booked in for her chicken pox vaccination at 18 months, but Trish thought what she did is 100% normal, despite the fact it's caused Annie significant pain and distress, and now scarring to her face and arms. When I found out what she did, I was livid and had a shouting match with her and packed up our things to leave the very next morning. It soon came out my husband Jack didn't think Trish had done anything wrong. On to the update. I didn't think it would be possible, but things got worse. I got up first thing the next morning and started packing our stuff into the car. Once I opened it up, I kept the keys in my pocket since I was going in and out. Usually we use Jack's set and leave mine in my bag. While I was packing, he sat in the kitchen with Trish and my father-in-law at 6 a.m. and chatted and had coffee like nothing was wrong. Annie was mercifully still asleep, so I just gently belted her in and closed her door when Jack came out and asked if I had everything. I said we were good to go as soon as he was. He said okay, and calmly took out his key set and centrally locked the car, locking Annie in. I asked him what the hell he was doing, and he said we wouldn't be leaving until I apologized to Trish. I think I was stunned into silence because he then took the chance to rehash what he said the previous day, that Trish thought she was doing what was best, that chicken pox doesn't kill you, and that I was making a bigger deal out of this than I needed to and making Trish feel bad. Yes, making her feel bad. All the comments from my last post were swirling around in my head, and I told him he needs to stop being a son and start being a father. He screwed up his face and said he would always be Trish's son, and that was the point, that nobody should speak to his mother the way I had the day before, and I needed to apologize to clear the air. I felt like I had entered some kind of weird twilight zone where I had accidentally married a 9-year-old instead of an adult man, so I just asked him to open the car so we could leave. He repeatedly refused, then walked back inside and said he would see me in there when I was acting more reasonable. You can probably guess what happened next. I'd left my bag on the passenger seat, so he probably assumed my keys were in there. Nope. I waited 30 seconds, then just hopped into the car and drove away. My phone blew up with a million calls from him, Trish and my father-in-law. Eventually my mom and dad and my sister Jess, who I'm super close with, called as well. I'd briefly texted Jess about what was happening the day before, but she was stunned to get the full blow-by-blow. By the time I was on the open road, I asked her to phone Jack and tell him he could walk home for all I care. Once she heard my side of the story, and not Jack's, which was apparently that I'd gone crazy, frightened Trish, snatched Annie and sped away, she calmed down. Mom, Dad and Jess offered to start driving and meet me halfway so I could switch with one of them and wouldn't have to drive the full 12 hours by myself in one day. I was so grateful to see them I pretty much broke down in a truck stop parking lot while I blubbered that I loved them. They all took turns driving while I had a rest. It was super reassuring to talk it over and hear that Trish and Jack are the unreasonable ones. Once we got back, I stayed at my parents' overnight and they said I could stay as long as I needed. The next few days were fairly tense. I was up most of the night making sure Annie didn't scratch, which she did anyway, somehow, and it seemed like she just cried and cried and cried until she was exhausted. She has 5 scars on her face and a few others on her arms from scratching. I know appearances shouldn't matter, but I'm so angry her skin is marked for life now over some stupid bullshit. This whole thing is just something I never expected to happen. I answered one of Jack's calls only to have him start a rant that he didn't recognize this person I had become, so I hung up on him. He was due to come back for the start of the work year, which I wasn't looking forward to, but I figured we could make it work as long as Trish was 12 hours away. Then at like 11 p.m. one night I got a very short informal text from father-in-law via Jack's phone, saying Trish had come down with shingles and was in the emergency room, that Jack was staying there to care for her, and that he would work from their house remotely once the year started back up. Jack's been there for the past few weeks tending to Mama's every whim. I'm sure she's put on an Oscar-worthy performance of having one foot in the grave, and according to Google it should be any day now that her painful, crusty pustules go gently into that sweet night. A few weeks ago I was honestly so tired and overwhelmed and in disbelief that I didn't know what to do. Now I'm back at home with people who actually care about me. I think I'm starting to realize how lucky I am to see the weird relationship with his mommy this early on. The fact that he cares more about Trish than his own daughter speaks volumes. When he eventually comes back I think we'll have to have a serious talk about our future together. TL.er, mother-in-law infects my 1-year-old with chicken pox on purpose. Husband supports his mommy. He tries to force me to apologize to her by locking our daughter in the car, but I peace out with a spare set of keys. Husband has barely spoken to me in the weeks since. Mother-in-law came down with shingles, so he's staying with her to nurse her back to health. I don't think any amount of TLC can do the same for our relationship now I've seen the real him. Woo! Top comments. Tina Pesto, He locked your daughter in the car, holy shit. And assumed you wouldn't be able to get her out. I mean, that was why he locked her in, to threaten you. Holy shit. Good on you for dipping out of there after that. Whatever happens with your marriage moving forward, you seem to have your parenting priorities straight. Good luck, and I hope Annie feels better soon. Bugs doing things. Yeah, this. He locked a sick baby in the car. Kudos to OP for handling that with a cool head because I would have lost my shit, Demonix. That is fucking terrifying behavior out of him. That poor baby is going to grow up with that as a father. Skullbearer, you only get shingles if you've had chickenpox, the new vaccine prevents it. Rather ironic. I'd get divorce papers served before Mummy Dearest decides your daughter should become a breatharian or join Scientology. Now to the next story, story 2. My stepfather murdered my mother before taking his own life. I'm overwhelmed, lost and unsure of how to move forward. I know this doesn't sound real. I have my boyfriend and my best friend here. I've known this for about 2.5 hours. It still doesn't seem real. I don't really know what I want to accomplish with this post. But I swear it is real. It's 3:51 a.m. in Berlin right now. We were trying to finish watching the movie that we started before the police rang at my door. I don't know what to do. Edit. The police just called me. My stepfather killed himself. I wish I could destroy him. Right now I just feel empty. Edit 2. I don't even know why I'm posting here. I'm usually just a lurker. I guess I just want somebody to know. I feel like the whole world should know. My mother is the most amazing person and she has always been my idol. I don't know how to feel. I'm in our apartment, and I feel like everything I see is her. My evening started so differently. Everything started so differently. I haven't slept yet. I don't know how I will. Though sleeping is usually my talent. Mom wakes me up every afternoon if she feels like I'm sleeping too long. Since I moved back in, during the COVID lockdown. Update. Hello. My last post got capped so I made a throwaway account. It's been about 24 hours since the police stood in front of the door to my mom's and my apartment and told me that my mother is dead. I've cried so much today, I feel like it's been an ocean of tears, so much that I just feel empty now. I miss her, so fucking much. It still just feels like a bad dream. This can't really be real. Her death was on the news and I saw a picture of a body in a blue body bag being rolled into the back of a wagon. That is my mother. In that bag. Oh my God. I'm going to run down what happened again. Maybe this will make it more real for myself? I don't know. My boyfriend and I were in the park playing speedminton on Wednesday evening when my mom called me and told me she would be coming home. I asked her if everything was okay and she said yes, not to worry about it, and my boyfriend was still welcome to come over if he liked. I told her okay, I would see her in a moment. We both went home and she wasn't there. I wasn't worried. My stepfather and my mom have been together for a while and they're very much in love, but they can fight a lot sometimes. They always make up very quickly. I tried calling her several times to know if she wanted dinner and sent her text messages, and texted and called my stepfather as well. They didn't answer. This wasn't so unusual either. I thought they just made up. I'm guessing by this time he had already stabbed her. I feel sick writing this sentence. The police showed up at 3 in the morning, informed me, stayed in the apartment while my boyfriend called my best friend who rushed over with a taxi. Everything is kind of a blur from then on. I remember sitting down to write the Reddit post because I didn't know how to feel or what to do, and I guess I wanted to scream my pain into the internet void. At that point, my stepfather hadn't killed himself yet. He had taken his car up into the countryside where my mother has a tiny little house at the lake which is her pride and joy. With her garden. Both of them went up there every weekend together. He killed himself there. The fucking bastard. I've never been so angry in my life. I loved him, he was a part of my family, we got along really well. Some part of me wishes I could strangle him. Or scratch his eyes out. I just want to scream in his face, how he could do this to me. To her. My lovely mother. Fuck, she is such a fucking light, she is such an incredible person and we are so close. I told her everything. And not just because she's my mother, she is truly an absolutely amazing person. Everybody who met her loved her. I stayed awake until about 6 a.m. I smashed a few glasses, I cried a lot. We finished watching the movie. Today I had to call all of the people. My grandparents, her brother, her friends. I had to call my stepfather's children in the UK and tell them what happened. I can't imagine how hard it must be for them. My mother was the victim. Their father was the murderer. I feel so bad for them. I've gotten so many calls and messages from people who are offering to help me in any way I need, who cry on the phone and ask me if this is real. To have to tell people over and over again what happened, really wrecked me. Especially my grandparents. My granddad, I don't know how he's going to get through this. He just kept screaming, "No, no. Not my mom's name." I have to go to the police today to give a statement. Probably talk about their relationship. I have to be there in 412 hours and I haven't really slept yet. I can't really eat either. I just feel like throwing up, just thinking about food. I wanted to thank all of you for your comments on my first post. I know we don't know each other, that I'm just some faraway voice on a screen with a terrible fate. But I did feel better reading your hugs and encouragement. I will have to think about getting a lawyer. My dad is sleeping in the other room. We're going to have to figure out how to get here. Some part of me honestly doesn't see a point anymore. There's so much pain in my life. I've had so many bad experiences. I got through a rape and a drug problem and everything was on its way up. And now this. But I love my mom more than anything, and I can't disappoint her, and I'm going to need to be here for my dad and me. I'm sorry for the long text, I just feel like I need to get something out. I feel so lost and empty. I miss my mom. Update. Hello. I guess in some way I wanted to give you people an update on what has been going on with me. When I posted my first post, I was slightly drunk. It was the night the police showed up at my house and rang the doorbell, and I was confused. All of your messages from random strangers, helped me in some way. I'd like to thank whoever sent me that poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry. "Do not stand at my grave and weep," we used that for the invitation to her party. And also Bianca, who painted that beautiful painting of her which she sent me by email. Thank you. The poem by Mary Elizabeth Fry. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sun on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry, I am not there. I did not die. Also, fair warning, this might be quite a long post. This might trigger someone, and I've been writing this post over several days as more information keeps trickling in, and the picture of that night is becoming clearer and clearer. I think I'm also mainly writing this for myself. What happened that night, the 23rd of July, is just still so surreal. I'm sitting at my mother's desk right now, in her little office in our apartment that I grew up in Berlin. Her presence in some way is all around me. It has been 23 days since the police showed up in front of my door at 3 in the morning and asked if they could come in. Since my stepfather hung himself. Everything has been so confusing. It's all sort of a mixture between crying, screaming, yelling, throwing things, and just emptiness. I go through phases. Someone linked that famous post about grief, and God, it's so accurate. And it's really hard to cope. Since that night I haven't ever actually been alone. This is somewhat exhausting to me in some ways, but probably also very important. I'm going to go through the series of events and facts because I also want to set it right. Since in the media, since some of you found the articles online and connected the dots, there is so much false information, it's hard to believe. My mother and my stepfather were together for 8 years, and he has only been living in Berlin since then. He has children from his previous marriage, that is all I will say. I am my mother's only daughter. He did not call me and confess to what he did, as many report. But he called some vaguely mutual friend who he walks his dog with sometimes. This was sometime after 11 p.m. At this point he was already up at the summer house. It takes about 1 hour and 45 minutes to get up there. This means my mother had been dead for about 2 hours. It says so in the police report as well. The summer house did not belong to my stepdad, but to my mom. She poured all of the little money she had, and renovated it by hand. It does not in any way belong to him. The police showed up at my mom's and my apartment late at night. They didn't know the address of where he might have gone and were also worried he might come and harm me since he had the keys to our apartment as well. I was watching a movie with a friend of mine. I posted on Reddit a few hours later. The news articles started coming out the next day, connecting my stepfather to a celebrity. I posted because I needed help. This celebrity and my stepfather are by no means friends. They are acquaintances, and there is no reason for him to be brought into any of this. That was Wednesday night. Thursday morning. On Friday I was at the Landeskriminalamt, criminal police, and gave a 3-hour statement about them and their relationship. This next part is about my feelings and mainly about my mom. Feel free to skip it. Since then my whole world has been turned upside down. My mother, the person I honestly loved most in the whole world, was just torn from me. It feels like I have this big bleeding hole inside of me. I'm not crying all the time, sometimes I feel okay, but more like empty. My mother has been with me my whole life. The whole 21 years, and I'm not just saying this because she is dead. She is honestly the best mother you could wish for. She is goofy and caring. Her laugh is infectious. She has such integrity. She is the most animated person. When she tells a story, she will get up from the table and gesture all around. Her eyes are so shining. I think I might show some pictures of her, because I want people to recognize her beauty. I want the whole world to know she is gone. Because this is an honest and devastating loss to the world, believe me. She is so talented. She got her bachelor in art history in America. She has worked odd jobs all her life. She's always been a hippie. When I was little, she started working at this English language summer camp in Thüringen in Germany, and she used to take me there for many weeks with her. On a hill, on a farm in the middle of a giant forest. She's a magician in the kitchen. She can open the fridge door and magically make something out of leftover ingredients that nobody would ever think tastes good. Noodles and carrots, anyone? She likes to make everything herself. She would let milk go bad and make her own ricotta. I have 1,000 jars of her homemade chutneys and jams. She baked her own bread years before the pandemic. She made her own vinegar, her own syrups and alcohol, and her hot sauces are legendary. I used to come home and open the fridge door and I'd ask her which of the many bowls she had covered with little plates were edible and which weren't ready yet. Since she's dead, I have found so many started experiments of things I don't even know what they are. I wish I could ask her. There are so many things I wish I had the time to ask her. Writing this is making me cry again. At the beginning of the pandemic, March I believe, I moved back in with her and she ordered 14 different bottles of white wine on Lidl, and every night we'd drink one together while we cooked, and I'd write notes on the color and the taste, and we'd give it a 1-10 on the Lidl scale. She's one of the funniest people I know. And she is so forgiving. Even when I was younger, we would get into huge blow-up fights sometimes and we'd scream. But 5 minutes afterwards she'd come into my room and she'd apologize and tell me she loved me more than anything in the world. We told each other we loved one another all the time. Sometimes just randomly, and hugged each other. I'm so grateful for this. I would say we had a rare mother-daughter bond. I love her with all my heart. She has always been my idol, my role model. If I'm even half the person she is, as generous, hilarious, creative, emotional, forgiving and understanding, I will be lucky. I see her face in front of me all the time. I can hear her laugh. Fuck. I'd really give anything for her to be with me right now. Anything. It really tears me apart. If it weren't for her, I would have probably been dead 2 years ago. She pulled me out of my dark holes. She loved me unconditionally. She isn't just my mother. She is my best friend. And I will never ever forgive him for taking her from me. Especially since more and more facts are coming out. End of emotional bit. It's important to preface that I knew their relationship, or to be more exact, I was the closest to both of them together. And it's important to understand that he wasn't some creepy, abusive, scary bad guy. I loved him. He was like a best friend to me. When he came into my mother's and my life, I took him in with open arms. I've confided in him, I've told him secrets, we've had running jokes. We made bets with each other that I usually won, and he had to pay up. He was my family. This makes me feel just as conned. I feel cheated. I feel like I've been blind. I've had bad fights with him as well, and I knew about their fights, but I didn't see this coming. Not even a little bit. I would never put my mother in harm's way. I guess this is why she must have kept things hidden from me. The murder happened in his apartment. They had separate apartments. And afterwards he drove his car up to my mother's country house that they both spent every weekend at. Hunting mushrooms, planning and building things, going swimming in the lake that's right in front of the door. This was their refuge, and I'm assuming this is the reason he went there. Since the day this has happened, I've always assumed he blew up about something, lost control, and he killed my mother while he wasn't clear-headed. This is what made sense to me. That he killed himself because he killed my mother. Because he didn't know how to continue. But the more time goes by and the more facts we uncover, we being my mother's friends and I, not the police, the more it seems it was the opposite. That he killed my mother because he wanted to kill himself. And that he was covering something up. Since the night the police showed up, they've been asking me if I could know where their laptops are. They both had a laptop. And both are missing. They found the empty cases. But they're gone. This sparked suspicion in us. His phone is gone as well, my mother's is not. The police gave it to me. Then there are the other facts. Trigger warning. Despite what it said in the media, she didn't have multiple stab wounds in her chest. There was only one very precise and very small wound that caused her death. He only let someone know what he did after he was up at the house. When he arrived at the cabin, he apparently parked normally, even greeted one of the neighbors. The pieces are falling into place. that this was cold-blooded. I don't really know why I'm writing all this down in a Word document and why I'm going to post it on Reddit, but I need to share. I feel so much hatred and so much anger. I feel it boiling underneath my skin and it keeps threatening to come out. I've smashed so much stuff. I've gotten so angry. Sometimes I snap and I scream at people, and other times I just cry and beat my pillows. And sometimes I'm very calm. I can still feel joy. And my mother has this amazing circle of friends that I've known my whole life and who are supporting me. I saw her body in the coffin, and I will never be able to get that image out of my head. She was so tiny, it breaks my heart. I've also slept 2 nights at the cabin, and in the dark every shadow looked like my stepfather. I've become scared, and started locking my doors at night. Murder used to seem something so far off. Something that happened to other people, in a different world, separate from mine. But now it's not. And I won't let him spoil her place, her house. I won't let him take that away from her and from me. I refuse. I just miss her. I miss everything about her. It hasn't been that long yet, and all I want is for her to hug me and say my name and say she loves me and that she thinks I'm an amazing young woman. I want her to cuddle with me in bed, which she did for so many years until I felt myself too old. I want to sit at the kitchen table in the morning with her and have her ask me what I dreamt about last night, and have both of us talk about our dreams. For her to talk with me about my story ideas and my poetry, and to talk with her about the book that she was writing and will never finish. It just hurts so much. I don't know how to ever get past this. She has always been the most amazing person I know, and I can't get over this. I don't know how to get over this. I feel lost. I feel like I have to grow up very fast now and carry her with me. There's so much more to tell. So much. But I should probably stop somewhere. I would appreciate all advice. Thank you for reading. Relevant comments. Commenter. It's 23:40 and now I just want to call my mom. I'll do that in the morning when I wake up. She's my only family since we cut ties with pretty much everyone else. Be brave and take your time to recover. I hope everything will be fine for you after some time and that you'll get even stronger after this terrible event. OP answer. Hi, you're in the same time zone as me. Please do this and tell her you love her. From me. Because I wish I could tell my mom lots of love. Commenter. Hello again. I commented on the original post because I went through something so similar. I want to thank you for the update. It couldn't have been easy to write. But more than that, I'm glad to see you on Reddit just to know you're still around. The part of this post that most struck me was you spending time in the cabin. I remember the days in my father's house after his murders and suicide so vividly, and looking back on it, I wish I hadn't gone there at all. Which leads me to this. You don't have to do things the hard way. You don't have to make things harder on yourself. When grief as raw and shocking as what you've experienced takes over, we sometimes want to swim in it, because at least feeling something is better than remaining numb, feeling hollow. But I want to lovingly and gently encourage you to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I also want to reiterate how useful a trauma-informed therapist can be. I was dead set against therapy after my father's crimes happened. I thought I could handle everything on my own. After all, I'd always been the strong one. I waited a year to find a counselor, and if I could change a single thing I did, it would be that I'd have sought out help sooner. I didn't really know how to ask for help at the time. It took me years to learn how, but it would have been immeasurably useful to have someone help me through all of that. Like you, I was in my 20s when my father killed his girlfriend, her daughter, then himself. That was 16 years ago. There is a life on the other side of all of this trauma and heartbreak. I promise. And the book I just finished writing about was finally handed in on the last day of July. Maybe someday it can help you, and others. I have thought of you many times since your first post. My offer to reach out at any time stands. Any time. Edited to add. Quite a few people asked about the book in this thread and via DM. It's with my agent now, so at earliest it would be out in a year. Books take forever. The title is, We Run to Crush the Grass. Thank you for the interest, but please focus on OP. She needs the love and kindness of strangers. OP answer. You especially. You have helped me so much, Lisa. Thank you so much. You've been such a light in these dark times, advising me, listening to me, checking up on me since my first post, and listening to me complaining about my family. You're such an amazing person, and communicating with you has helped me so immensely. I send you so much love, and I will continue being in contact with you. I can't wait for your book. Commenter. You must have inherited your mother's writing talent because your story about her was so beautifully told. I agree with the others who gently suggest you speak with a therapist trained to deal with trauma. They can help you with your anger and other feelings and thoughts as they arise, so you can be guided to a proper healing. My heart goes out to you and, if you will, I'll pray for 1,000 healing angels to surround you. OP answer. The night the police showed up at my door, at about 4 a.m. it started raining even though it wasn't supposed to. I went outside on the street and I started praying to every god there was, even though I'm not religious. But in these moments it really doesn't matter, you just want something higher to help you. Thank you so much. Oopie added in this thread. Hey everyone. Imagine my surprise scrolling through Reddit on my living room couch this fine afternoon, when I see a little picture of my mom and me in my feed. Was not expecting that at all, and then to look further down and see all of these wonderful and heartfelt comments underneath. I couldn't believe it, and I actually started crying again. This is the reason I reached out back then, into the void, as I called it, at my darkest time, and Reddit reached back and gave me something to hold on to. When you lose your faith in humanity in that way, I needed the love that came from so many strangers all over, and the support. Yesterday was actually my birthday. I just turned 25, so it has been a bit over 3 years, and I can't believe that 3 years have passed. I can't stand to believe that much time has passed without her. Thinking about it makes it hurt more. I miss her so much. Thank you to everyone for worrying about me and wishing me well. I'll give a quick update and one of these days maybe sit down and write something more out. I've been in therapy for almost 2 years now and I have a wonderful therapist that helps me greatly. It took me a while to find her and there was a lot of trial and error with former therapists, but she's amazing and I'm so happy I have her. She actually says that I have improved greatly. In a number of things, I'm a mess. Though my mother's murder is something that I've buried very deep down below in the darkness of my psyche, and we haven't quite reached it yet. Now to the next story, story 3. My wife's gym addiction is ruining our marriage. She's having an affair with a gym friend, leaving me with our unborn child. OP's wife, 30F, has always been fit but has been increasingly passionate about working out over the last 1.5 years, returning to a gym she had previously left due to her busy schedule. The gym slowly started taking over her schedule, both weekend days, and every weekday pre- and post-work. Going to the gym becomes the solution for any stress, fights, crisis. Everything is gym to the point where if the wife misses a session, it affects her mood negatively, as OP says, like a junkie not getting her fix. As wife is now 4 months pregnant, OP expresses concern over the intensity of her workouts and also that he simply misses her, given all her time is now taken up by gym. They can't work out together, because gym is her time. She won't work out at his gym either. Gym becomes a form of escapism from real life, a compulsion, essentially. And no problems wife is running away from ever really get solved because gym is simply not the solution wife seems to think it is. Gym has become so prevalent that family members, friends start making comments on how much time wife and gym spend together. Update 1, OP shares that he had originally laughed over comments on his post that speculated about infidelity, but quickly came to discover they were correct. Wife has been sleeping with guy from gym, who she had mentioned to OP countless times as a gym friend. There is confrontation. OP breaks wife's phone, wife hits OP. OP leaves for a short period of time and returns to wife, who, though remorseful, will not admit to exactly what infidelities she's committed. Update 1 ends with OP feeling guilt for his rage, left with zero answers as to exactly what's going on with wife. Update 2, my wife admitted to an affair February 12, 2024. Wife admits to an affair. She felt bad about it, but not bad enough to not sleep with guy from gym pretty quickly. She might even be in love with him, she doesn't know, or won't say. And oh, there's a chance the child she's currently pregnant with might not be OP's. She'll get a paternity test though. Stellar work wife. My wife is moving in with her AP, they're in love February 22, 2024, guy from gym and wife, who will still be referred to as wife. For now. Are moving in together. She's not getting the paternity test. OP expresses sadness for her, that she just can't be alone, or seem to work through her mess on her own. Wife had been with OP since she was 20, and OP theorizes she is codependent. Guy from gym allegedly doesn't care if the baby isn't his, he's happy to play house with OP's wife. My wife has agreed to a paternity test February 29, 2024. Shocker, guy from gym wants a paternity test, so a paternity test they will get. In follow-up comments, OP reveals the results say he is in fact the father. An update on my wife's affair and pregnancy March 15, 2024. OP is now conflicted. He has gone from excited to be a father, to not being sure he's going to be a father at all, to now knowing he will be the father of a child born into the disaster that wife has created. There is a small but non-physical confrontation between OP and Guy from gym when wife brings him to OP's house to gather things she needs, and OP tells Guy from gym to leave or he's gonna punch him. OP and wife have private words upstairs. Wife is just so in love with Guy from gym, she can't help it. Predictably, confrontation becomes physical when OP returns to his living room to see Guy from gym still standing there despite the warning, and so OP follows through and coldly clocks him. Update 5 closes with OP and wife still legally married, but wife dedicated to living with and loving Guy from gym. Another installment of the implosion, which is my marriage, April 10, 2024. OP's wife is still purganante, 26 weeks. OP and wife have agreed that he will be the one in the delivery room when the baby is born. And Guy from gym will not be present. Guy from gym has a big problem with this, of course, because having an affair with and housing another man's pregnant wife simply would not be enough. OP prepares to sell the marital house and split the profit. He gets to keep their dog, thank God. Wife's sister shares with OP that wife is already complaining about Guy from gym, that he's selfish, hangs out away from home too much, etc. Birds of a feather and whatnot. OP ends the update, expressing that he is at least happy his soon-to-be ex-wife is miserable. I'm still alive, May 19, 2024. I'm still alive. I'm mainly posting here because several people have reached out to me and were concerned that I'd taken my own life. No, I'm not on the brink of ending my life. I think I'm doing better than I have since all of this started. Around the time of my last post, my story blew up and I was getting messages from people who saw it on TikTok and YouTube. I had to take a step back because it was a little overwhelming. I have over 100 unread messages here. I appreciate it, but it was a little uncomfortable at the time, and I got to the point where I didn't really want to talk about the situation with my wife and her AP anymore. So as of today, our baby is due in less than 10 weeks. We're in the home stretch now. I don't feel prepared at all. All of this other stuff has just been so distracting. I started working in a nursery. It's not done yet, but I have the floor finished and the walls painted. My ex-wife was impressed with the color scheme and furniture I chose. She's not legally my ex-wife yet, but I've started calling her that. It sort of makes it easier. I also packed up a bunch of her stuff. Originally I refused to spend my time packing up her things, but eventually just said screw it and started packing it. I'm at the point where it'll just be easier to not see all of her stuff around here. Why did I leave it for so long? She came over to get some of the boxes I packed up. She came alone. Things were fine between us. I loaded the stuff into her car. We didn't argue. At one point she started to tear up and said she fucked up. I said yeah she did, but there's no point talking about it now. She shit all over our marriage. She has her muscle-bound asshole to go home to now anyway, so who cares? She said I know, but it's not the same. I told her nothing has been the same since she decided to fuck him the first time. Supposedly he's going to let me be in the delivery room when my baby is born. I didn't even argue it when she said it like that, but inside I was boiling at the idea of him letting me be there for the birth of my child. She says she talked to him and he agreed it wouldn't really be right to not allow me to be there. I'm going to take what I can get if it means being there for the birth of my child. I'm going to try to just ignore him for the time being. She was acting all sweet and laying on all of the I really want you there, I really need you there stuff, and I know mentally I'm not in a place to be that cold to her when she starts acting that way. I'm trying to be indifferent more than anything else, but it's so hard when she's actually around and starts looking at me a certain way and making me feel bad. She invited me over to see the nursery they have set up at his house. I'm not sure I can bring myself to go into another man's house and look at the nursery set up for my kid. I did ask her if she was truly safe there though. I don't know why, it's just been bothering me. As pissed as I still am, I don't want to find out he's mistreating her, and I definitely don't want my kid to be going into an unsafe household. I haven't told her about anything her sister has told me. They probably won't last, but as of right now there's a very good chance my newborn baby will be going home to his house. It kills me to think about. It's almost soul-destroying to think about if I dwell on it too long. She says she's fine. He genuinely loves her. He's great with kids. He accepts that she's having a baby and that this is part of the package. She insists it's not weird because she wasn't pregnant when anything started between them. I asked her why she did it. Why did she ever let anything start between them in the first place? She said I don't know. Then went into I don't want to talk about this mode and left pretty soon after. Typical behavior from her. Just run away. Overall I'm doing okay. I'm not sitting here depressed and drinking a bottle of scotch every night anymore. I mean on occasion, but for the most part no. I feel more used to my new normal now, and that'll all change yet again pretty soon. Additional info: there is a draft of a custody plan now, But the court won't approve anything until after the baby is born. Right now she's in agreement, but there's plenty of time for her to change her mind, or for him to convince her to change her mind. She plans to breastfeed, but with agreement that she'll pump and the baby can drink from a bottle when not with mom. Everything I've read says a baby ideally needs to spend time with each parent frequently, without gaps that are too long in between, and it's best if each parent is feeding, changing, bathing, etc., during their time. At this time she's in agreement with all of this. I can say that she's not said or done anything to indicate she wants to restrict my time with the baby, other than the whole delivery room thing. She seems to want me to be involved in that respect. I hope she sticks to her word. If not, I will be fighting it through legal means. I'm a dad. July 2nd, 2024. I have a baby. A little girl. I'm a dad. She was born yesterday at 11:57 p.m., 2 weeks early. As he's done before, she was having some pains off and on and he left for work yesterday morning. She works from home on Mondays. She told me around 8:30 a.m. she was having contractions 17 minutes apart. The same thing happened not long ago, but then by evening all the pains stopped. I was at work, so I told her to keep me posted. A little later she said they were 15 minutes apart and she had some other signs it might be actual labor starting. I asked her if she needed somebody there with her. She said wanted me to come be with her. I didn't even mean to volunteer myself. She was scared. I didn't even ask why she didn't call him. I left work and went over to his house. Uncomfortable doesn't begin to describe it, but there were obviously more important things going on. He wasn't there. She didn't even contact him. She said she just wanted it to be me and her there. In her words, he hadn't seen her pee or shit herself yet, but I've witnessed all of that stuff already, so she was more comfortable with me there. I really tried to be as nice and supportive as possible. Set the whole thing about her affair, our marriage, everything to the side for a brief time. I don't really know what my purpose was being there, but I think she just needed somebody there so she didn't feel alone. She spent most of the time stretching and doing some sort of yoga labor routine and bouncing on this huge exercise ball. I twiddled my thumbs for the most part and looked through a bunch of his belongings. I was timing the contractions and they were consistent and slowly did get closer together, so I thought it was probably actually going to happen. It wasn't nearly far enough along to go to the hospital yet, and it was getting close to when he'd get home. I was planning how I'd handle that when she called me into the bathroom to ask her if I thought her water broke. It wasn't like in the movies with this huge gush of water. So he got home and I was there. He came into the house and the first thing he asked is, "What are you doing here?" I think he thought something else was going on. "No, you just left and went to work and left her alone when she was scared." He said he was home and he'd be with her until it was time to go to the hospital. He put his hand on my shoulder and said something like, "Thanks, bud, I got it from here and we'll call you when we're on the way to the hospital." He called me bud. I told him I wasn't his fucking buddy and to fuck off. I could tell she wanted me to leave. I'm not sure she really wanted me to leave so much as she was in labor and the tension between the two of us wasn't what she needed, and I knew that. It was his house, so what was I supposed to do? I left and prayed they'd actually call me instead of letting me know the next day that my kid had been born. She texted me a few hours later to say the doctor told her to go to the hospital. At that point I still didn't know if I was going to be waiting outside or what he'd decide was best for his apparent wife and child. I was allowed to be in the room. I didn't force my way in there. She said she wanted me to be there. He was there too. By far the single most awkward experience of my life, and the only reason I was able to excuse it was because she told me she wanted me there and I didn't want to miss the chance to be there when my kid was born and to hold my kid before he did. I can't imagine what the doctors and nurses were thinking. Fucking humiliating. Then the guy tried to police what I could see. I put the baby in there. He's fucking watching and it's like, this is still my wife and that's my baby. I chose to stay dignified and I ignored him the entire time. I was there to do whatever she told me to do and my focus wasn't on him, but in any other setting I don't think I would have been able to hold back. The baby came flying out. I mean, as far as labor goes. These are the nurses' words and I trust labor and delivery nurses to know what they're talking about. She tore very bad because the baby came out so fast. The baby is so tiny, barely 6 pounds and only 18 inches, but perfectly healthy. I went home for a short rest, although I really couldn't rest at all. I went back today and of course he was there. Surprisingly, he said he was going to give us some time alone with the baby. Not sure if she had previously asked him to do that when I showed up or not, didn't ask. He even brought us all food back when he returned a few hours later. I wondered if mine might be poisoned, but I tried to be nice. He's still not gone, so I'm wondering how long he'll be around. I just can't let myself do anything that will make her try to keep me away from my daughter now. I don't want them making it difficult for me. I'd prefer not to share her name publicly, but I can confirm it's the name we chose for a daughter years ago. He had no say and he hasn't said anything about the name at all. It kills me to see him holding her though. I eventually left because it was just too much sitting there pretending to be like some bizarre company. I'll know I will get my time with her when he's not around. He's already posting them on his social media. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. I just have to find a way to be the bigger person because I won't let him or their relationship discourage me from being my daughter's dad. I totally get doing anything for your kids now, and if it means having to pretend to get along with him, I will. Additional comments from OOP. It's not about picking me. I just have a hard time not caring about her anymore. The fact that she was carrying my child made it a lot more difficult. Otherwise, I could have and would have cut all ties with her. I don't know, I still feel the need to protect her or help her. Hopefully it'll get easier now that she and the baby are two separate people. Honestly, I'm considering doing something pretty stupid. She's getting discharged from the hospital early tomorrow morning. I don't want them to go home with him, so I'm thinking about asking her to come home to our house instead. It's ridiculous and sets us up for disaster. It wouldn't be to be with her. I don't want my newborn baby going home to another man's house. I don't think it's for the baby's sake that I want to stop it. It's for my sake. But it's not like we'd be divorced and living together forever. So we'd live together for some period of time, but eventually we'd go our separate ways, date other people and so on. I can't trust her again. That would probably be worse for our kid in the long run. At least by being in two separate homes in the first place, this will just be the norm for her and she won't have to go through that heartache of being one family splitting into two. I just don't know how I'm going to be able to handle seeing my child going home from the hospital to his house. I'm honestly scared to be present when they're discharged because I'm not sure I can control myself. I caved and I asked her to come home with me when they was discharged from the hospital. I framed it more like, if you don't want to go home with him, you don't have to. I let her know she could come home to our house if she wanted to. She said she can't. Why? Because he's done so much for her. He moved her into his house. They have a whole nursery set up. He loves her. I don't love her anymore after what she did, her words, but he loves her and accepts her even with the baby. She thinks she'll never find anyone who will love her and love our baby too, so she can't risk losing him. I tried to tell her she doesn't owe him anything. Just because he let her move in and there's a nursery there doesn't mean she's indebted to him, especially not when it comes to something this big. She said, I want to, but I just can't. I'm sorry. I left. I told her I couldn't sit there and watch the get into his car and go to his house. As a consolation I got a, you can come over and see her tomorrow. Great. I know she did this. This is all her doing. But why am I the one feeling like I failed? This wouldn't have happened if I hadn't immediately shut her out. I basically just pushed her to him. OOP on the AP posting pictures of the baby online. Today I told him he can't post pictures of her online. He said he was just posting a few pictures to say how proud and happy he was of my wife. It wasn't weird. I said he can post her all he wants, but he can't post the baby. He didn't seem to be taking it seriously, so I told him I know he wishes he'd won this one, but he didn't. She's my kid, not his. If he's genuine about being all buddy-buddy and respecting me as the actual father, he'll respect my request. He said okay, he understood. We'll see. New updates. Life update July 24, 2024. Many people have asked for an update on my situation, but I've been pretty busy. There's the baby, plus a week of completely unrelated but never-ending annoying problems. Remember that book Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day? That's the week I've been having, but I'm not even going to get into it beyond saying I can't even stay at my own house right now due to a giant hole in the wall. I've been dealing with insurance and contractors all day, and they hit a water pipe. I'm still on paternity leave and continue to regularly spend time with my daughter. We have a set schedule for when my daughter comes to stay with me, so I've been spending less time over at his house. Sometimes my wife needs help during the day though, or just to be able to take a shower or a nap, so I will stop over to help her. Really, I just want to take advantage of any opportunity I can to spend time with her and bond with her. Plus, breastfeeding isn't working out very well. She's still not producing enough milk and I know she's upset about it, but it sort of makes things easier for me. At least she has help when the baby is with her, supposedly he helps, gets up at night, etc. I'm on my own, and I won't lie and say it's a walk in the park, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. The other day she called me and asked me to come over. She said she was on the verge of a mental breakdown. I've heard that line from her many times, when she cheated on me without my knowledge, and it was usually mostly related to her job. I got over there and she was saying she can't handle being a mom, she can't handle life, she can't function. She was crying. This time she couldn't run off the gym. She would if she could, but she's not really allowed to exercise yet. She won't talk to anyone, won't seek professional help. Some days she seems much better than others. She's just an easily overwhelmed person. Everything overwhelms her. Sometimes we have, dare I say, a good time together. The most she can really go as far as physical activity right now is walk. We took the baby in her longest walk yet and walked from his house to my house. Everything was fine in the walk. She was in a good mood. We were joking around. Then she turned really sad after being at my house, our former shared house, after a little while. She finally admitted that this isn't how it's supposed to be, raising our daughter between two homes. She said my home is our daughter's real home and she's only supposed to have one home. Then she started sobbing about not having a home anymore. My house isn't her home and her boyfriend Gumbura's house isn't her home and she's essentially homeless and doesn't belong anywhere. She admitted she fucked up really badly and she doesn't want to share custody or to only see her daughter half the time. She just wants to come home. But she loves him and she thinks he loves her and our daughter and she doesn't want to hurt him after he's done all this for her. I said, so what? What she wants for her kid should be more important than his feelings. If he can't get over the fact that the married, pregnant woman who he was sleeping with wants her kid to grow up in a single home with her actual father, he can fuck off. He can fuck off anyway. If she can't tell him and wants me to tell him, I will. She doesn't think she can tell him. I told her this is her biggest issue, communication and honesty. Just tell people the truth and stop being a pussy about ever telling anyone the truth about how you really feel. Thing is, I've been tolerating him lately. Don't like him, but tolerate him. I'm not hanging out with him. Ever. I know it sounds crazy coming from me, but I think he's genuinely in this. Still shouldn't have been fucking my wife. Doesn't absolve him of any of his involvement. He's back to being cloying nice to me. Suggesting we hang out, try to be friends. He's so fucking happy all the time. It's a little unsettling, but I think he's just one of those people and maybe that's what she likes about him. I'm not one of those people, never will be. So anyway, she and I sort of got into an argument, started as a discussion, turned into an argument, then morphed back to a discussion, all about everything we don't like about each other in our relationship. In the end, we were both able to say what we need from the other person. She's just too overwhelmed right now and can't make any changes. She can't handle trying to change right now. It gives her too much anxiety. So I don't know, we're sort of at an impasse right now. Then this stuff with the house, I've just been extra stressed and not really all that pleasant to deal with. My wife has moved home, for now July 28, 2024. This month continues to be the strangest I've ever experienced. The repairs to my house were made and I'm back home thankfully. I can only take a few nights under my parents' roof. I slept with somebody else. We went out on a date. I think we both just wanted to have sex to say we'd finally gotten over our former spouses. She's the ex-wife of a friend of mine. She and I are actually closer/better friends now than her ex-husband and I. Several people have suggested that we start dating each other. We get along great and we are on the surface a really good match, but it was too fucking weird for both of us. She's very attractive, very social and fun to be around, and has been incredibly kind to me during this whole ordeal, but I can't see her as more than a friend. I had been intentionally avoiding sleeping with anyone else. I hadn't been with anyone since the last time I slept with my wife. That feels like an eternity ago. For the longest time I wasn't interested in being with other women. Then it sort of morphed into my way of feeling morally superior to her. I was going to hold out and not pursue anything until after we were divorced. It's pretty pointless and childish. Just a dumb way to make myself feel better and to be able to say I never cheated. I still don't feel like I cheated. There is no marriage anymore. Within hours of this happening, I started getting texts from my wife saying she decided she wants to come home. It's like she had some sort of sense. She was saying she was ready. Would I come help her? I called her and told her I don't want her to come home and to be in a relationship again. She doesn't get to just decide that's what's going to happen. She then started to say, "Oh, I know, I just meant move back in." I told her I didn't really believe her and felt like she was just jerking me around again. She said she thought our conversation the other day had gone so well and that she thought we seemed to be at a place where we could really work on fixing everything, but until then she could live in another room. She said she was completely serious about it and she wants our daughter to be in one home. I feel so mixed about everything, but ultimately I want my daughter living in my house 24/7 and I don't want another man helping to raise her, so I took the bait. Today I showed up at his house to help her move some things, but I anticipated I'd get there and she'd either have changed her mind or she wouldn't have been planning to leave at all and was only waiting to see me do some more tricks for her. They were arguing when I got there. The baby was crying. She was crying and running around packing things in bags, and he was following behind her begging her to stay, offering to do anything to make her stay. He accused me of this being my idea. Maybe it was, IDK. I don't really care what he thinks. It was obvious she had just sprung this news on him shortly before I got there. She was telling her over and over that she just wants her child raised in one home and that his home wasn't really their home, and she was sorry she was doing this to him after everything he'd done, but she just has to give our daughter one home with her real father. We got back over to my house and she's obviously an emotional mess. I have no room prepared for her. Not 15 minutes later he shows up at the front door. She didn't want to talk to him. He wouldn't give up, and eventually he was there on the front porch loudly saying things like, "That's not what you were saying when you were blowing me last night." So at that point, after I'm sure our neighbors had been enjoying this embarrassing scene long enough, I told him if he didn't leave I'd call the cops. I went out there and tried to calm him down. I had to sympathize with him. She runs away, that's what she does. I may have said a few other things in my own favor and to make him realize he doesn't want to be involved in this mess that is my wife. I don't think he'll give up so easily. It sounds terrible, but once she was at my house I sort of found myself wishing she'd leave with him. I know I'd wanted her to come home, and I tell myself it was mostly due to the baby, but now I'm wondering what the hell I've gotten myself into. She said, "I didn't really blow him last night. I haven't done anything with him since she was born. I've only been thinking about you." I told her, "Yeah, right, you expect me to believe it? Even if it's true, what on earth makes you think I'd ever believe anything that you say?" Then out of spite I told her I slept with somebody else. I know I only told her to hurt her, and I feel bad about it now. She immediately demanded to know who. I told her it wasn't her business. She claims it is her business because we're still married. Nope, I'm not sharing. So, now we're awkwardly existing. I don't have much faith that she's going to stay here. I think she'll be back at his place within the week. I've told her that he's not allowed over here. He has no business being here. And if we're raising our daughter in the same house, together, then she can't just run off to his house to be with him whenever she feels like it. It won't work that way. She says she knows, and she wants me to want to be with her again, and she'll prove to me she can be a good partner. She tried to kiss me and I rejected her. She's upset. She's taking a nap now. I feel like I've dug myself into a very deep hole now. Relevant comments. Smoke Thin Mints. Brother, you better get her out of that house and fast, Omeloop. I was really doing a good job of tolerating the guy since they came home from the hospital. I don't like him and never will like him, but I don't believe he had any nefarious intentions with my daughter. However, my heart broke every time I had to leave my little girl over there at another man's house. Or when I'd go over there to pick her up and he would greet me at the door holding my baby, talking to her like he was her dad. No, that's one of the lowest feelings in the world. So for these reasons I'm happy to have them here. I just don't know how this can or will work with her mother living here. DC Photo 78, is this really the environment you want your child to grow up in? OOP, no, not at all. But I also don't want her growing up in another man's home. What I'm worried about is my wife dragging her back and forth. I've told her she can't do that, it's not fair to me or our child. Purple_Bishop 2, if you really don't want your daughter being raised half-time by AP, your only real option is to truly attempt to reconcile, but it's pretty clear neither of you really want to reconcile with each other. It's just that neither of you want to be apart from your daughter. If she is going to live with you for even a couple of days, you need to have some tenderness in your heart for her and be willing to lovingly interact with her and your daughter. Your WW is postpartum and an emotional wreck, so if you gray rock or get angry, shit will go south fast in a way that won't be good for your daughter. All other paths lead to 50/50 its custody and acceptance of AP having a role in your daughter's life. Be civil, not friendly, civil, to AP as you say your W loves him and will likely go back to him soon. If you and AP are at war, it will be terrible for your daughter. OOP, I'm going to be nice. We sat on the porch while it was storming outside tonight and she was talking to the baby and said, "This is how it should be. Daughter's name, Mommy and Daddy." Several rude comments immediately popped into my brain, but I kept them to myself. I figure I might as well enjoy it while I can. Well, enjoy having my daughter here and maybe pretending we're a normal family for an hour. I'm not actually enjoying having my wife here right now. It's not making me feel good. I didn't mind when she was here the other day when we took a walk and came over here, but today I'm really not enjoying her being here. I'm going to keep that to myself. Now, on to the next story. Story 4. I yelled at my wife that having a child with her was the biggest mistake of my life and that she had made me miserable. Now, I regret my words. Repost as my last post got removed. I have been with my wife for 4 years. I have a 5-year-old from a previous relationship. My 5-year-old, Leah, is from my first long-term relationship during college. We split shortly after her birth, as my then partner admitted to being unfaithful and not being ready to start a family. My daughter loves my wife. They are inseparable. My ex does not have much to do with my daughter or myself except cause the occasional drama. She did not want any custody or visitation time, so my wife is her mother for all intents and purposes. My wife is almost 8 months pregnant. She has shut me out of the entire pregnancy but refuses to admit anything is wrong. I feel completely ignored and hurt. When we first learned she was pregnant, she told me while I was making breakfast. Of course I was elated. However, since it was an unplanned pregnancy, I asked how she was feeling at first. She began smiling and crying about how excited she was. I picked her up, gave her a million kisses, and told her I was so excited to have a baby too and what a wonderful mother she would be. All good, right? She went all out to announce it to everyone else. Balloons and boxes, t-shirts and best big sister mugs. I assumed the casual announcement with me was because she wanted my feelings on growing our family before celebrating. However, when her sister asked about how I liked my box, my wife quickly said, "He didn't get one, this isn't his first rodeo." It was like pulling teeth to get her to let me go to the ultrasound appointments. She didn't want me to miss work, didn't want to interrupt Leah's routine, excuse after excuse. When it came to listening to the heartbeat, my wife instantly started crying happy tears. The tech was telling her how strong the heartbeat was, how precious our little one was, etc. I was feeling a bit emotional and cleared my throat to prevent crying. The tech said, "Aw Dad, isn't that sound beautiful?" My wife immediately said, "This isn't his first child, it's not that special for him." I immediately said this is one of the most important moments of my life. I can't think of anything more special. The atmosphere was clearly awkward after. Another thing that bothered me, I heard Leah and my wife's mom laughing in the living area. I was in the kitchen making dinner. When I walked in and asked what the fuss was about, Leah was touching my wife's stomach and was laughing with excitement that the baby was moving and it would be so cute. My wife let my daughter and Mill feel the baby move before me. I was hurt but simply said how happy I was. Later that night, my wife was poking her belly and laughing. I asked her to feel as well and she said, "You felt Leah move as a baby. What can be better than that? She was the cutest baby ever." She has felt pretty poorly throughout her pregnancy, but refuses to let me help her. If I bring her a snack and drink, she offers it to our daughter. If I try to rub her feet or legs, she asks me to play with our daughter so she doesn't feel like she is being replaced or ignored. I simply do not ignore my daughter. We have bonding time. I'm an active parent but I want to love my wife. She can hardly eat but when I asked her what I can prepare for her, it's whatever Leah wants. We went to the zoo with Leah, and my wife started feeling bad. She had cramps and was considering going to the hospital, severe nausea and dizziness. I carried her to a bench nearby and she began to cry saying she can't even stand up. I told her let me call an ambulance or I'll carry you to the car and drive you. She said she didn't want to ruin Leah's trip and we didn't even make it to the aviary, Leah's favorite part. I said I wasn't leaving when she asked me to continue to go through the zoo with Leah. We sat for a while until her dad showed up. She didn't even tell me he was coming, and he took her to the doctor. I was shocked, and followed them with Leah. When we arrived, Leah was upset about missing the aviary and pouting. At that point the health of my wife and unborn child were my concern. I really didn't care that Leah was upset. My wife was irate that I made Leah miss out. Another example, we were watching Leah play in a local kids sport. I asked her, "Do you think our kid will be athletic, artistic, enjoy science or math?" She said, "This is Leah's moment, we shouldn't make it about someone who isn't even here." Leah was on the field, we were sitting in the stands. We had both waved to her, held up a sign for her, everything. I just wanted to talk about our baby. When her bump was really showing, she would always show it off to anyone who wanted to look. Her family, friends, siblings, etc. "Do you want to see my bump? I'm huge, so excited, I can't believe it's only X more weeks." They all touch her bump, talk to it, etc. Her parents come and read or tell back in the day stories. They go to the beach? 1,000 bump pictures posted on her friends' social media accounts, so ready to be an honorary auntie. Her sister wife puts the B in bump and beautiful. If we go out together, she wears the loosest clothes so I don't see it. I'll even see her pull her shirt down when she sees me come into the room. She sat on me the other day after being playful in bed. Her bump was right in my face. I ran my hands up it and said, "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. You already are a great mom to Leah. I can't wait to see you as our family grows." This was one of the first times I was really able to feel her bump, so I rested my hand there and said, "I love you so much already. I'm so excited to meet you. I hope you have your mom's eyes." She moved off of me and said, "I know ex-partner had a bigger bump than me. I bet it was fun seeing Leah move all the time. You don't have to act like you care. I know you've done this before." I said, "I don't think about it that way. Leah is special, but this is a completely new and different special because it was with her and our baby was someone completely new and special." She began to leave the room and I could see her shoulders shake from crying. I am 100% positive she is not cheating, nor has she ever. I just can't wrap my head around why she doesn't want me to be happy about this. The rest of the time is completely normal as long as I don't mention the baby. She is affectionate, initiates intimacy, brags about what a good husband I am and how great I've made this pregnancy. We plan for our future, have date nights, everything else. Unfortunately, we had a fight where I snapped. I had a break between clients at work, so I went to a local baby store and got a lot of things she had planned for the baby and nursery on her Pinterest board. I came home and surprised her with flowers, a prenatal massage certificate, and her favorite food, as well as the baby items. She seemed very grateful, but when I came home, editor's note, OOP meant when he got home after going back to work again, the items were no longer there. She said she returned it to buy Leah stuff, as she was going to feel left out. I lost it. I cried for the first time in our marriage and yelled that having a child with her was the worst mistake I've ever made, that at least my deadbeat ex at least gave me the chance to know my unborn child. That I didn't care about the baby because she wouldn't even let me bond with it. I do care, have since she told me. That I hope she was as miserable as she made me and that she better be prepared for a custody dispute. She is a SAHM for Leah. She simply said, "I know you don't care about the baby, but I'll die before you take my baby from me." What? I have begged her to let me interact with her, our baby. I asked her if her therapist had any insight on why she was being like this. She said no, that she isn't doing anything. I told her what I said above and she said I had those experiences already so it shouldn't matter. I asked her if the baby was mine. "I know it is, I was just being mean." She threw her phone at me and said, "Yes, go through it. I'll do a paternity test, whatever you need." I just called her parents and asked them to go to our house as we were having a disagreement and went to a hotel. I do not want to stress her or our unborn child, and I really want to repair this but I truly don't know how. I'm staying at an Airbnb for now until we can figure this out, but I truly don't know what to do. I miss her like crazy, and I can't even begin to understand why she wants to behave this way. I have apologized for what I said, but I can't take back what I said and I worry about when our baby will be born if she will even want to be a family with me, or let me have anything to do with our baby. I spoke with a mutual friend who says she is very distraught and says she can't be a single mom, loves me, but her actions prove the opposite time and time again even when I beg for change. Relevant comments. Why did you say those things? OP, downvoted. I said those things because I wanted to hurt her like she has been hurting me. It's as simple as that. I regret it. I have apologized. She has told me time and time again you shouldn't care, and I told her whatever I thought I could to hurt her. It was childish and immature of me, and it was a knee-jerk reaction. I hadn't planned on saying any of that. Commenter. Yeah, I can understand why you're angry. Has she explained why she has been saying those things? Resentment is a weird thing. She may not have even realized she had that until she became pregnant, but I do think that if that was something she'd been feeling, that it's something she should have spoken to either you or your therapist about. OP. Nothing. I've begged her to talk to me about it. I've told her we can go to counseling together, and guess what her response was? She cried and asked if I was unhappy in our marriage. I said no, I want to be more involved with you in this pregnancy. You've left me in the dark. I asked if she was unhappy. Did she want a divorce, decide she doesn't want this baby? More tears, seemed genuinely hurt. I would even think that. Makes no sense in my mind, apparently I should just stand on the sidelines. Commenter, is it possible she's resentful of your 5-year-old? What's your relationship with Leah's mother like? OP, I truly don't think she is resentful. She adores my 5-year-old and I think she is probably the preferred parent. She takes her to the park, museums, mommy and me painting. Shows up to school events, muffins with mom etc. without fail, takes care of her when she's sick, plans our vacations out around my 5-year-old's interests. Her cousin had said something about not bringing her stepdaughter before, And my wife completely freaked and said that we don't use titles around here that make us feel like we aren't one family. She is my daughter and nothing less and will not be excluded, type thing. When she was first pregnant we took a short trip to see some of her family and she cried every day about missing Leah. She is in therapy and has been since we met for anxiety and depression, but it is clearly no help. I have brought up prenatal depression at her doctor's appointment but she really doesn't match as she is elated unless I specifically bring up the baby. Downvoted comment about seeing an attorney because he probably won't be allowed at the birth and they should just get divorced. It's definitely a fear in the back of my mind. I know Leah will be devastated. My wife already mentioned wanting her mom in the delivery room since I've already seen my kid being born, that it would only serve to embarrass her if I'm in the room this time. Commenter, you two need couples therapy immediately. You should have started it after her first or second comment. You've known for months things weren't right. Also, call her OB and explain what's going on. Ask them to make a record of her shift in behavior and stress that she's never done anything like this before getting pregnant. I stupidly attributed it to hormones and other issues that come with pregnancy. She was sick for most of her pregnancy and for a lot of it actually lost weight, was constantly hungry but couldn't eat and became very body conscious. She is doing much better now and is a healthy weight and I genuinely thought it would get better. It's much easier to see in hindsight that the first few comments were deeper than that. Commenter, why the fuck did you say all that shit? She was acting really off, for sure, but you really fucked up. That's some awful, very possibly unforgivable stuff you just said. And you seemed like such a decent guy. I am an idiot. I did fuck up, and I have apologized, not that it means much to her at this point. I said whatever I could say to hurt her. It was months of resentment building up. Months of begging for her to tell me what's going on, to let me in, to let me think of baby names with her. I was and I still am hurt. I hope it can be repaired, as I would like to be there for her and be a full-time father to my child. It breaks my heart to think of splitting custody time. Clarifies his relationship with Leah and the aviary event. I absolutely did not care that we did not see the aviary. We go to the zoo regularly and I had promised we would go back. When your pregnant wife is so ill she begins crying that her legs don't work and she can't walk and begins saying she thinks she might die due to such strong abdominal cramps, you're not concerned with missing the aviary. I did not tell my child I did not care. I told my wife in the hospital that her and our unborn child's health became before birds and that Leah can pout and be mad until we were certain she and our baby were okay. We do everything for Leah. Leah and I have bonding time both with and without my wife. Together we enjoy fishing, going to the arcade, and playing Barbies. My daughter is confident in our relationship. Just the other day my dad said he didn't want to play horses with her anymore and she of course said, "Fine, I know Dad will always play with me." I absolutely have not and never will neglect or abuse my child. This is such a far reach because I was concerned more about my wife than my daughter going to an aviary. To another commenter, she is 5, and is very smart. She knows that the hospital and ambulance are things people need when they are very sick. She completely understood my wife felt bad, even said I needed to get her tummy medicine so we could keep going. I didn't say, "We are leaving," cry about it. I did tell her we were following Mom and Grandpa to the DR because Mom was feeling very bad, and that we can come back another day, and said when Mom feels better we will get her an ice cream since she didn't get to see the birds. She pouted, all kids do. Did she see that I was more concerned with my wife? Yes. She even commented that Grandpa seemed upset. We live in a hot and humid climate and my wife went from red and using a fan to pale white and saying she was cold. It was scary for me. When you arrive at the hospital and want updates. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? And your wife is miffed that you didn't take your child to an aviary and that's all she wants to talk about is that she is pouting. It hurts. Commenter. And for someone who is a self-proclaimed good husband, why has he not addressed this with his wife before? If she is acting so out of character, and showing odd behaviors, why has he not talked to her about it? Every in-tune partner would be scrambling to get to the bottom of this after a few remarks. He just let that shit glide. You don't think I've talked to her about this? I am shut down every time. I exploded after begging her to talk to me for the 100th time. This was not out of nowhere. I have literally gotten on my knees in front of her and asked why she is doing this. If there is a reason, what does her therapist say? Do you want to go to therapy together? And she says she doesn't know what I'm talking about. It is the most frustrating, infuriating thing. It's so hard to watch something so special pass by you and pretend it's not happening. I regret what I said and don't expect sympathy. But my explosion was not from lack of trying update. It's been about a month since I posted. This is a bit long because so many kind Redditors reached out and gave me advice and shared their experiences and asked for an update. After I posted and stewed for a little while, and had a couple of drinks, I called my Fiel. He and my wife are very close, and I respect his opinion. He has been married for a very long time, and seems to have a happy marriage and has good relationships all around with his family. I didn't specify what issues we were having, but he was over at my house while I was staying in an Airbnb, so it was no secret we were having problems. He has more of a traditional marriage, and at some point asked what I had to lose by putting pressure on her to talk. I said I feared I would push her away more, and he pretty much told me that I was living in a separate house than my pregnant wife, freaking out about a potential divorce. What did I have to lose? He advised me to be a man, and come back to my house and lay it on the line. I told him I'd be coming over the next day. They asked if they could take Leah to buy some sparklers for the upcoming holiday and spend the night at their house. I agreed, and when I went to my house the next day I came in with flowers and stuff to make dinner. My wife asked what I was doing there, to which I replied I live there and would like to sit down and talk. I gave a long apology for my actions and words. When I finished, I said it was her turn to tell me what was going on. She tried to claim nothing, that everything was okay. After a while, I said my heart is broken, that we have been through some tough things together, fought for each other, and now you sit here and lie to my face. We both sat there and she cried for about 30 minutes until eventually she said she felt like our relationship would end if she was honest. I said I would hear her out, no matter what. She admitted it was hard that this would be her first kid and not mine. She didn't think it would bother her, and it didn't until she was pregnant, and that she laid in bed at night thinking if my ex would have wanted to raise Leah we would still be a family together and she wouldn't matter. She expressed that seeing me emotional about our baby, or wanting to touch her bump, or treat her made her think of me and my ex and how I had already did all of the things she was excited to do with me. Near the beginning of her pregnancy, she had told a close friend that she couldn't wait to have a baby with her soulmate, and her friend replied that she didn't think soulmates had other children or baby mamas, that it was two people meant only for each other. She was very upset and asked if I thought we were soulmates like she did. She described herself and our unborn child as my sloppy seconds family, that no one grew up dreaming of having kids by multiple different people. That she was just the substitute when the family I wanted didn't work out. She also shared she had found some old images of my ex on social media and could not stop comparing her pregnant body. She feared the baby wouldn't be an equal to Leah in my eyes. It worried her when I would ask what she thought the baby would be like, that what if the baby was disabled, or didn't like to do the things we enjoyed as a family, or the baby and Elle didn't like each other. She said at one point she found herself wishing I had never had Leah, so she wouldn't have to worry as much. And that is when she knew she had to really put in the extra effort to maintain a relationship with Leah. She feared that between work and Leah, I wouldn't have time and wouldn't bond with the baby, like in the article she read online where fathers didn't bond with their children until they were able to do things with the family. When I did try and bond with the baby, she worried the baby wouldn't live up to Leah. I have never been shy about saying how much being a father means to me and how raising Leah has been the highlight of my life, along with marrying my wife and now having our child together. She said it was initially what made her confident in marrying me and excited to have a big family with me. But now constantly wondered if her pregnancy and this baby would be a highlight or a burden for me, because the stress is the same but the newness wasn't. And then what if a newborn and then toddler wouldn't be as interesting to me as Leah, who is capable of doing activities? She showed me a million articles of different men explaining they didn't bond with their children until 4+ years old. She also showed me videos where people say things they did with their first kid, and then get more relaxed as they have more children. She said it freaked her out because it was clear people stopped caring the more children they had. She said that there were times she felt she was ruining our family and coming between me and Leah. For example, at the zoo she said she cried on the way to the hospital. She was afraid Leah would hate her and resent the baby for cutting our zoo time short, and that I would be upset that I was spending my time off work at the hospital instead of doing the activities we planned with Leah. While I work, Leah and my wife spend a lot of time out of the house, library, local parks, etc. One of their favorite activities is biking together, and we bike together on weekends as well. We have lots of local trails, but due to her pregnancy she has not been able to. We've been doing more indoor activities. My wife said that when I'm at work, Leah kept saying she hated her because she didn't get to go on her new bike as often anymore. I said I would discuss it with her, because that is unacceptable. My wife asked me not to since there would be so many changes soon for Leah, and it hurt her because she missed biking together as well. A couple of months ago, my wife asked me and Leah if we wanted to read stories together. Leah chose the first story I read and my wife chose the second, her favorite childhood story, for me to read to the baby, and Leah since it helps promote brain activity and help with bonding. After that, I read another book of Leah's choosing. While I was at work the next day, Leah ripped the pages out of the book my wife chose. She said she was going to tell me, but her friend, the same friend who says we aren't soulmates, said I would think she was making it up and that it seemed to her she was trying to become between me and Leah. I asked her why she didn't tell me any of this, and she explained that she didn't feel comfortable telling me because her thoughts didn't even make sense to her. She wanted me to spend time with Leah so she didn't feel left out or jealous, and when I did she felt upset I wasn't spending more time with her. She loves Leah but wishes we had our first kid together. She wants me around but also feels upset and guilty when I give her/our unborn baby attention. She said she feared that I would think she was trying to come between me and Leah, when she wasn't. By the time I realized something was truly wrong and started to ask what was wrong, if she needed therapy, etc., she said she realized she was acting poorly, but didn't want to admit to herself that she missed out on a lot with me and doubled down as it was hard to face that she made her fears reality by pushing me away and not letting me care. And that she couldn't start over, that her first pregnancy was a somewhat bad experience because of her own actions. At this point, I realized how terrible I'd been. I apologized for making her feel like she couldn't come to me about anything. She said when she researched her feelings she found a bunch of forums where people were calling the poster evil for their feelings about their stepchild, and feared I would feel the same. She said if I had told her I felt about Leah the way she felt about Leah, that it would make her angry and upset, so she couldn't see how I wouldn't be. We both cried for a long time. I tried to reassure her. I told her how much I loved her. How excited I was, that she was the family of my choosing and my soulmate, that the universe knew that Leah and I needed her, which is why circumstances allowed us to be a family. She apologized for the way she treated me, and said she wanted to make it right. She said she had wanted to apologize when I was beginning to have my meltdown, but was surprised when I yelled, and realized she might have messed up beyond repair to get that reaction from me. We continued to cry for a long time, and she asked if I wanted to feel the baby. Of course I said yes, and we cried even more. It turned out to be a great evening. I made us dinner and we laughed about how I was so stressed I went to Reddit for advice. She wanted to read the post and cried again when she did. I reassured her we could move past this and she said she felt less horrible as she read some of the comments from women in her shoes. It was a bit awkward the first week, after so many months of tension. I knew things were turning around when she woke me up by whispering baby wants blueberry pancakes that Saturday. I don't think I've ever prepared pancakes so fast, I couldn't keep the smile off my face. We ended up going to a pool party a few days later, and she let me choose her swimsuit, a big deal for someone who only wore baggy clothes around me. We took family pictures, and the universe is clearly on my side because on the way home she asked me to feel her belly and our baby was hiccuping, something I had never felt before and it was the first we could share together. She has even let me help her when she is sick without making an excuse about Leah. I've learned that when she comes and puts her back to me and lifts her arm, that is my cue to lift her belly up. I now spend a lot of time rubbing and talking to her belly, and rubbing her feet, legs, back, shoulders, hips, haha, she is sore everywhere at this point. The first 500 times it made me cry. It has been such a relief to be involved. I never thought being tasked with acquiring the most random food items at 2 a.m. would be a great time for me, but it is. It still sucks that I missed out on a lot. I think it sucks for her too. She gets emotional and says a weight has been lifted off of her and things are so much easier. And she is upset that she didn't talk to me sooner. I have been working to fix some of my wife's guilt. I realized there were a lot of simple fixes. For example, I was able to go to my local bike shop and get a pull behind the trailer. Now, I pull her in that and she can use a small fan and ice packs, and Leah can ride her bike. I have taken off work so I can spend more time with them both. We are all in therapy and thankfully Leah's therapist is continuing to say she is securely attached to both of us, enjoys the time we spend together, is coping very well. Some of her behavior was due to another situation, which we have resolved, and she is excited to be a big sister. My wife was terrified that maybe she could sense her attitude shift, but her therapist says that she only has one complaint about my wife, that she forgot her candy one time and then it took 32 whole minutes for the store to deliver it. My wife is in therapy working to overcome the negative feelings she has. That is pretty much where we are now. We are getting very close to baby time and working hard to finish preparing. My wife still needs reassurance. There are a lot of times she brings up my ex and I've found bringing up our first helps. For example, she will ask about certain things and how it was for me. I'll say I don't want to talk about that, and steer the conversation to us. Do you remember our first house? First vacation? First kiss? Date? Remember that time blah blah? It made me fall more in love with you. Do you remember when you and Leah made me blah? That is still one of my prized possessions. It upsets me that my wife suffered for so long. I believe saying it out loud took a lot of power away from her feelings. I think most people know how badly it feels when you have thoughts that don't feel like your own when you're going through a mentally taxing time. I really should have stood up for our relationship and her mental health way sooner. I accepted her brushing me off for far too long when I should have realized she needed help. I appreciate everyone who reached out or offered advice. I posted this in detail with my wife's permission. She hopes that it helps someone out there struggling with the same feelings she felt. TLDR. My wife was facing insecurity and some mental health issues and did not feel she could reach out to me as they involved my bio daughter. Thankfully, Elle received great advice from my FIL and you all, and we spoke about it and worked it out. After some awkward times, things are somewhat back to normal and I'm able to be involved in my wife's pregnancy. Everyone, including Leah, is doing well and excited for the baby to arrive. Relevant comment. Commenter. I wonder, how is your wife moving forward regarding her friend? It seems she didn't even consider having these insecurities before she had a snake in her ear. OP, we have disinvited this friend from our home. It's hard to cut her out as she is part of my wife's larger friend group. My wife was unsure as this friend has gone through some hard things lately. However, recently my wife hosted a girls' night and her friends were arriving as I was leaving. I told her she looked beautiful and wished them a good time. When I arrived back, my wife told me this friend said in front of the whole group that I may be saying kind things to her now, but after some changes after birth I won't describe here, I will be after her. My wife said that was an unkind and untrue thing to say, and she said it was a joke. I made it very clear to my wife that I did not want her around, as we are in an emotionally vulnerable time and this person clearly does not wish us well, and she agreed. Now to the next story 5. I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I'm so stupid. I, female 26, had an affair with a married man, male 42 a few years ago. I had no clue he was married when we first met and hooked up. I obviously looked him up on social media and while he did have photos of his kids on there was absolutely no mention or photos of a wife at all. I found out that he was married about a month after we first got together, but he told me it was just a marriage on paper and that they basically lived separate lives and agreed to remain married for practical purposes until the kids were older. They owned a business, which she really ran and he was just financially involved in. I knew at the time that I probably shouldn't believe him, but I convinced myself it was true. I was in my early 20s and so attracted to him and I guess almost infatuated with him. He made me feel so good. I know now that I should have ended it immediately, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I was addicted to all of the attention he gave me, the great sex, the places he'd take me. I felt special. I was so naive. I got pregnant about a year into seeing him. I had always been so careful with preventing pregnancy, but during my relationship with him I took stupid risks. I was so high in lust with this guy, it's embarrassing. The things he'd asked me to do, I'd say yes to almost anything, even when I knew it was a bad idea. I was in love with him, or I thought I was. I hadn't intentionally wanted to get pregnant. I would of course dream about being his wife and having a family, but I knew that wouldn't be a possibility while he had this arrangement with his actual wife. I didn't get pregnant on purpose with any intention of him leaving her for me, even if I wished that we could be a real, normal couple. I was surprised by how excited I was to be pregnant with his baby. I wanted that baby once I found out I was pregnant. The thought of carrying this baby of the man I loved was so special to me, but I knew he probably wouldn't feel the same. I told him I was pregnant and he told me I couldn't keep the baby. I expected his reaction, but I was devastated and it hurt me to my core that he didn't feel the same way I did. He offered to pay, to make a whole weekend of it somewhere exciting, what the F, and to buy me something special if I'd just please get rid of the baby. He explained that he didn't want any more kids and that he couldn't openly be a father to another kid when he and his wife were still pretending to be happily married to the outside world. I agreed to do what he wanted and we made plans for him to pick me up and find somewhere out of town to go get it done. I was all packed the night he was going to pick me up, but I started to feel really scared and really unsafe about the whole thing. I took my bag and checked myself into a hotel to hide because I couldn't go with him. I texted him to say I promised to never contact him again and to never name him as the father or go after child support if he'd promised to leave me alone. At first he tried to sweet talk me into doing what he wanted. When I didn't cave in, he said some very nasty things to me and that I essentially better never contact him again or show up at his door. I have a 2-year-old now. At times, it's been difficult, but overall we are thriving as best we can. I have kept my word about not naming him as the father or requesting child support. His wife contacted me on social media. Well, she's his ex-wife now. She wants to talk to me. She found out about me and told me that she divorced him 6 months ago. She wants her children to know their siblings and for my child to know his siblings. That's weird to me. I haven't responded back to her yet. I am unsure about how to approach this. How do I respond to this? I wonder if I'm being selfish by not exploring an option for my child to know his siblings, if she's being genuine about that. If I was married and my husband fathered a child outside of our marriage, I don't think I'd feel the same that she does. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I didn't know he was married when we first got together. I acknowledge that I should have ended the relationship as soon as I found out he was married. I allowed myself to believe what he told me, which made it seem not so bad. Like this was some sort of agreement he and his wife had. Emotionally, I was already hooked. I'm not making excuses. I wouldn't say I was happy to bring a baby into this situation. There was a huge mix of emotions. I felt like I was in love with him, so there was a part of me that was excited at first. That feeling soon died, but I still felt that I loved my baby still. I tried to do the best thing that I could, which was to remove myself from his life and his family's life. I just wanted to be able to keep my baby and love my baby. I did not get pregnant on purpose. I wasn't on birth control. I had been on birth control when I was slightly younger and had life-threatening health complications as a result. He knew I wasn't on birth control. He loved unprotected sex. I was stupid and I agreed to do it. I would do almost anything he asked sexually. I tried to track my cycle and would tell him when it was probably not a safe time to do it. His wife isn't really what I'm afraid of. Whatever she'd want to say to me is probably deserved anyway, and more. Comment 2. He found out about the pregnancy before I ghosted him. And upon finding out I was pregnant with his child, there was absolutely no real discussion about what we were going to do. We were going to do what he wanted to do and he had it all planned out. He threatened me, by text and by phone calls and voicemails, when I told him I was not going to go with him on this abortion vacation he had planned. I begged him to please not force me to do that and he turned mean. I offered to never contact him again if he'd just let me go. After threatening me again, about what he'd do if I didn't keep my word, he agreed. He has kept his side of the bargain and has never contacted me. Comment 3. I've been assuming that she found out about me on her own, maybe saw something on his phone or computer and has probably known for a while before reaching out to me, if it's actually her. I get what some people are saying about siblings and such, but that man is not my child's dad. He is the dad of his older kids but he's not the dad of my kid. I'm still young and I hope to have more children one day, and those children would be my son's siblings. I hope to find a man who loves me and my son and with whom I can have a legitimate relationship. I haven't been with another man since I ended things with this guy. I actually just went on 2 dates for the first time very recently. I'm not desperate to find a man right now, but I hope to find real love one day. Those people are not my son's family. He's 2 and they're old enough to drive. So I don't think they're missing out on any sort of important relationship right now. I understand wanting to know your bio family, and I feel he can decide that later on when he's old enough to have a day. Depending on where we are in our lives at the time, he might not feel a need to know those people. I don't plan to lie to my son about his conception, but I don't think we need to involve ourselves with the man's ex-wife and teenage children at this time. Update 1. I made a post 3 weeks ago and things have only gotten stranger. I had an affair with a married man a few years ago. I regret it and I will never do anything like that ever again. I knew it was wrong from the very beginning, but he captivated me. I was naive. I allowed myself to believe when he told me they were pretty much just married on paper for the sake of their kids. I got pregnant and while he tried to talk me into getting an abortion, I ultimately decided to keep the baby. I have a 2-year-old little boy now. I promised this man that I wouldn't expose our affair and I wouldn't formally identify him as the father or request child support. I did that because he was becoming very nasty about the whole thing and I felt like due to the mess that I had created and the way I felt by the end of it, a clean break with no involvement with him would be the best thing for everyone. I moved back to where my family is, hundreds of miles from where he and his family live. About a month ago his ex-wife reached out to me via social media, claiming they had been divorced for 6 months and that she wanted our children to be able to know each other. Now their kids are teenagers, so I didn't really think they'd want anything to do with the toddler and the woman their father was having an affair with. It seemed odd to me. After posting here, I sort of decided that I wouldn't respond to her. I'd just ignore it. She just sent me one message, so it wasn't as if she was badgering me about talking to me or meeting me. On Friday night, I decided to message her. I don't really know why. I think it was really just for my sake so I could have the chance to apologize to her. I told her that I would be more comfortable speaking with her face to face since I couldn't trust that it was really her. She said she understood. I was too nervous to meet her in person, but we did a video chat. I didn't know what to expect, if this was all a ploy just to unleash her fury on me or what. I mean, I deserve that. She wouldn't be wrong to feel that way. It was really her. She told me she discovered our affair when she found communications between the two of us, after our relationship had ended. She told me I'm one of many women he had affairs with over the years and she knew about somebody even before he met me, but she didn't divorce him at the time. Finding out about my child was the final straw for her. I told her I was sorry for my relationship with her husband and admitted that I knew he was married. She graciously told me she forgives me and that while she harbored a lot of anger towards me initially, she ultimately blames her husband. I'm not blameless, but she chooses to not hate me, essentially. She said she couldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago when she first found out about me, but she has moved past that. She still has anger toward him, in addition to many other emotions surrounding him. She started pouring out her heart to me about their 20-plus year marriage and life together, and it was very awkward because what do I even say? Her kids know about me and my son. She says they're very mad at their father. Somehow I don't think they're mad about the fact that he's not involved with my son's life. And why would they be mad about that? I would hate myself if I were them. I told her that with my son being so little right now, I don't really feel comfortable with him meeting her kids or being involved with their family. I feel unsure about it and it's just not something I feel needs to happen right now. Then she told me her ex-husband was in a bad accident 2 months ago. He's fine now, still not allowed to return to all his normal activities just yet, but will be fine. He is probably the most physically active person I've ever met, barely ever seems to sit down. So he must be terribly annoying to be around if he's not allowed to go all the time. She told me he wants to meet my son. Apparently she moved back in with him temporarily when he first came home from the hospital. She said the accident really shook him up and he has been expressing a lot of regret about my son, not being involved, not providing for him. So now it's like, was everything she said just a lie and he somehow got her to reach out to me on his behalf? And she actually did it? It felt almost like a relief talking to her initially, but then it's like, was any of that true or you were just trying to be his messenger? I don't even know if that part is true now. Why wouldn't he just contact me himself? I'm just feeling so uneasy about the whole thing now. Relevant comments. Comment 1: I don't believe I have to involve his teenage children in my son's life. Maybe when my son is old enough to decide if he wants that. He is not named on the birth certificate and I do not receive child support from him. I have asked nothing of him, except to let me move away and not try to force me to have an abortion. I basically had to promise him to not contact him, not make him as the father, not request child support. If he truly wants involvement with my son, he can reach out to me directly and he can take the legal route to establish himself as our son's father. Comment 2. He did not legally sever his rights. He never established rights in the first place. He has no rights until he goes to court and establishes himself as the father. He is welcome to do that. Honestly, I wish my son did have a father who was involved in his life and loved him. Yes, this guy has faults, but he has plenty of positive qualities. He is really involved with his older children. I met them many times because they'd be at work with him or he'd have to drop by the office on his way to take them somewhere. He was always doing things with them. They seemed like good kids who really loved their dad. I wish my son could have that experience too. I didn't think it was an option based on how he behaved when I was pregnant. He wasn't interested and wanted me and our baby to go away. That's what I did, and I accepted it. Comment 3. He is not legally my son's father at this time. This means that currently he has no legal parental rights or responsibilities regarding my son. I cannot stop him from taking the legal steps to establish paternity if he wishes to do so. He will always be my son's biological father. I can't change that fact. Regardless of whether or not he ever legally establishes paternity, my son will likely be curious about his biological father, and who knows, maybe they will establish a relationship one day regardless of legal paternity. There is no way to say if I will meet a man who may want to adopt my son one day, thus becoming his legal father. It's something that I think would be nice, but nothing that I'm intent on doing. By choice, I've only been on 2 dates since my son was born, and that was only within the year 2024. I realize that it will not be as simple as signing a piece of paper. Update 2. I posted about this a few months ago. To summarize very quickly, when I was fresh out of college I had an affair with a married man and father. I became pregnant. He wanted me to get an abortion. He had arranged to take me away on a vacation, to get an abortion. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I agreed to go along with what we wanted. At the last minute, when he was on his way to come pick me up, I told him I couldn't go through with the abortion. I just really didn't feel comfortable about his plan and how he was orchestrating everything. It scared me. I realized at that time how deep I had gone with this mistake, how screwed up the whole relationship was. He was really mad. He threatened me, said a lot of nasty things to me. I told him if he just left me alone and let me have my baby, then I'd leave him alone and wouldn't name him as the father or seek child support. I moved back home. I was living in a different state when I met him. I kept my word and I didn't name him as the father or seek to establish paternity. I have never sought child support. My child is 2 now. A few months ago his wife contacted me via social media. At first she made it seem like she wanted my child to have the opportunity to know his siblings. It was sort of weird since the siblings are teenagers. She said she had divorced him 6 months prior. I agreed to talk to her virtually, not in person. I felt that I owed it to her to apologize for what I had done. I do feel bad about it. But at the end of the conversation I told her that I didn't feel it was the appropriate time to connect my son with her kids. He's a toddler and in their teens, plus I had promised her husband to stay out of his life. That's when she told me that he was recently in a bad accident and she had been helping to take care of him. Supposedly he was going to be fine and was fairly recovered at that point, but she said he had expressed interest to meet our child. So she was basically his messenger. I have not been in contact with her since then. I deleted my social media. I don't know why, but the whole thing just really made me uncomfortable. Since I last posted here. Then I received a handwritten letter from him. In it, he expressed how he wanted to get to know our son, he wants to be a father to our son, he wants to provide financially for him, he'd like us to come visit him. He asked me to sign a paternity affidavit. I refused to do so. I know he is my son's father, but I'm not going to make this that easy for him. After the things he said to me and threatened me with, he at least has to work for this. At that point, my parents felt that we needed to meet with a lawyer. All communication from me has gone through a lawyer. I have never responded to him personally, directly. Now I have a court order for paternity. I have to present my son to have a specimen taken tomorrow. I already know what it's going to say. It's not that I don't want my son to have a dad in his life. It's just, the whole situation is a mess. And he lives a few states away from me. I don't know what to do. I can't really do anything. He's doing things legally. Next, I'm sure he'll petition for some form of custody or visitation. He's not married anymore, supposedly, but he's a lot more established than I am. He has considerably more financial resources. I also know he has all sorts of connections where he lives. Luckily, they don't hold as much weight here in my state, but it's still so scary to me. I'm a bad mom. I brought my son into this world knowing it was a messy situation. I just got so comfortable with it just being the two of us, and now I don't want to give that up. Relevant comments OP on if the father would be moving closer to her and her son now that he's divorced from his ex-wife. OP answer, to touch on just a few things. I don't think he'll move away from where he lives. He has way too much established there. He's in his early 40s. I don't know how this supposed accident, if that even really happened, has affected him, but he was incredibly physically active when I knew him. He only slept like 4 hours a night, took a 20-minute power nap daily, and rarely ever sat down. He was also highly involved in his children's lives. I'd even say overprotective, like a helicopter dad instead of the typical helicopter mom. Careless_welder_4048, how did he have time to cheat? OP answer, he only slept a few hours a night and moved at about 1,000,000 miles a minute. Everyone joked about it. Somehow he always had time to get up at 5 a.m., go surfing, do some work, take his kids to school, do some work, take his power nap, get coffee, pick his kids up after school and take them wakeboarding or some other sort of thing like that, do some more work, be at his kids' basketball game and so on and so forth. He literally never ever stopped. I was just another thing to help fill out his calendar to prevent him from getting bored. OP on the father's relationship with his ex-wife and their children. OP answer. I also don't think he and his wife had much of a relationship, although it wasn't quite as he described it to me. They lived in the same house, but I believe they lived pretty separate lives. He bought her a business to give her something to do and keep her busy. She was there most of the time. They didn't even go to their kids' activities together. He was always the one going. So I think that freed up time too. I don't think they liked being around each other, so she was happy to have him out of the house. She admitted to me that I wasn't the first affair he had, and she knew about most of the time we were together. Another update on how stupid I am, or I had a baby as a result of an affair and now his wife is reaching out to me. I won't rehash the whole thing here. My previous posts are on my profile. I got pregnant from an affair with a married guy. He wanted me to have an abortion. I decided I didn't want one. He turned mean. I promised to not name him as the father, legally, or to pursue any sort of child support. I moved away from where he and his family were located. I'm about 12 hours away from him now, back where my family is from. I haven't reached out to him in over 3 years since. His ex-wife reached out to me out of the blue via social media, initially claiming she wanted to connect with me so that our kids could know each other. When I politely declined for the time being, as her kids are teenagers and my son is a toddler and we live states apart, she revealed she was really reaching out on behalf of her ex-husband who had supposedly had a change of heart about being involved in our child's life after nearly dying in an accident. I did not engage with her any further after that. It all made me feel very uncomfortable. Later, I received a letter from him in the mail. He asked to be involved with our son, to provide for him, etc. It still felt weird. I mean, he turned really mean and didn't want anything to do with me or our baby and hadn't made any attempt to contact me in years, and I was not hiding. His wife was obviously able to find me on social media and you can find my address online. I felt like if he was serious, he'd take the steps to establish paternity legally. And that's what he did. Around 1.5 months ago we were ordered to submit DNA samples for a paternity test. It took around 5 weeks to find out what I already knew it'd say. But now things are stalled for another several weeks for the next step in the court process. I haven't talked to him at all during this whole thing. I didn't respond directly to his letter. I do have a lawyer and everything is basically going through him now. Then without any warning, he just showed up at my home last weekend. Just knocked on the door like it was nothing. Basically, this is his son and he doesn't want to wait another 6 weeks for the court to inevitably order us into some sort of custody mediation anyway. His words: "Why can't I just talk to him?" I told him he made me uncomfortable and him just showing up at my house really made me uncomfortable. Honestly, I don't know what made me so uncomfortable. The fact that he showed up unannounced like that, or the fact that I instantly felt the same attraction to him that I had when I was with him and I didn't want to feel that at all. In some weird way part of me felt happy to see him and then another part of me was disgusted that I was happy. He said he doesn't understand why we can't just talk about this. He's not trying to take my son away from me. He just wants to be involved in his life and to help provide for him like he should have been all along. He's sorry he wasn't there when he was born. He's sorry he reacted the way that he did when I didn't go along with his plans to take me on an abortion vacation. Why can't I believe that he just wants to be a dad to his kid? I guess I agree with him. Why can't I just accept that he has had a change of heart? I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own judgment. I feel like if I easily let him into my son's life I'm going to end up regretting it and be made a fool of somehow. I've already made so many mistakes when it comes to him. He says it's stupid of me to not try to work it out amongst ourselves first. I'm giving so much control to the court. I don't know whether to believe that or to think it's just his way of convincing me to do what he wants. I know he will get some sort of visitation and eventual custody. Maybe it would be better if we try to come to an agreement, but he had the ability to sway me so easily. I'm so stupid when it comes to him. Nobody else has ever made me feel so foolish in my life. I want my son to have a dad. I admit it's probably selfish of me to want to keep him away. I just keep imagining having to spend weeks or months apart from my child while he's living with his dad 12 hours away and I can't stand the thought of it. I'm just feeling sad, stupid, and defeated. Relevant comments OP on if the father is actually divorced from his wife. OP answer: I checked the county records and they did actually get divorced. Mammoth_Mite 8171. At this point you need to trust your lawyer. Hopefully he is a good one. Make sure that your lawyer has all the facts, including how poorly he treated you when he found out you were pregnant. Do not communicate any more with your ex, especially since you know that you're incapable of making good decisions when he is involved. You may need to prepare yourself mentally that your ex is eventually going to play a role in your kid's life, as much as that sucks. Hopefully you can go after him for back child support. OP answer: my lawyer has any and all information that I possibly had to share. I am already preparing myself that he will likely have a role in my child's life. I mean, the change will be difficult for me and I honestly don't want anything to change. But I'm trying to focus on any shred of positive outcome this could have for my son. He deserves a dad. I wish it wasn't in this situation. I wish I had given him 2 loving parents in a stable relationship, the ideal. I wish I had at least given him a father who didn't live states away. I feel bad that my son has 2 lying cheaters for parents. I truly do feel so embarrassed about our behavior in a new way I did before, ever since my son was born. Other than that whole thing and the fact that he's apparently had affairs with multiple women according to his ex-wife, he actually seems like a good dad to his teenage kids. He was always very involved with them. I guess I'm just trying to cling to whatever positive things I can think of. He can also provide a lot more financially than I currently can. That's scary for me because I'm already turning it into some sort of competition between us in my head. Several points for him, none for me. Plus my son is also very shy. He doesn't do well if me or one of my parents isn't there with him. I'm just now getting him involved in more activities with other kids and safe, trusted adults, but he still just clings to me. My heart breaks when I think of him meeting a strange man he doesn't know and me not being there. I want to be there. Plus I think that's how things normally go for him, and to be perfectly honest, that's how I used to be for him too. Just go along with what he wants. He was obviously expecting me when he showed up in person. He genuinely seemed surprised I didn't cave into his request right on the spot. The previous version of me probably would have. OP on how the father managed to find her address. OP answer. He sent me a letter in the mail previously. I googled myself and my address came up easily. Admittedly, I made no effort to hide myself after moving away. I didn't think I needed to. He had no interest in being involved with our baby and I promised to never contact him again. So I thought that was the end of it. His ex-wife told me he was in a bad accident when I talked to her. It's not too surprising based on his hobbies. He lives at like 200 miles per minute. According to her, she had to move back into their house to take care of him while he recovered. When he showed up here, he didn't look like somebody who had been in a life-threatening accident not too terribly long ago. He told me he's fully recovered and although he'll probably have back issues the rest of his life, he's perfectly fine. OP on having a visitation plan with the father for her son. OP answer. My lawyer says that other than creating a graduated visitation plan based on the fact that my son doesn't know this man, the fact that he hasn't been involved in his child's life for the last 3 years won't mean much to the court. Their ultimate goal is for a child to have 2 parents. I screwed myself over by not naming him as the father at birth or trying to establish paternity in any way. Had I done that and he fought it, neglected to pay court-ordered child support, etc., then we could have a better case as far as abandonment goes. He is putting in the effort to establish paternity now, is willing to pay child support, so he says, and is presumably going to tell the court he wants to see his kid, and this is going to reflect positively for him, despite not being involved for 3 years. New update. Since everyone got mad at me for posting a recap of my situation in my previous posts, I won't even go there. If you're interested in the backstory, you can read my previous posts. All I will say is that I have a 3-year-old son who was conceived in an affair I had with a married man. After initially making me promise to not contact him, to not name him as the father, and to not request child support, my child's father has been pursuing involvement in our son's life over the last several months. He lives states away and most recently he showed up at my house to try to convince me to work things out directly with him. Since the last time I posted, we've recently had a mediation session and he's met our son twice. At this time, he will have supervised visitation, with me present. Because he lives states away, he is required to come here to see our son. It will not be on a weekly basis due to the travel. He will see him during 2 weeks of the month, 2 times each week, for a total of 4 visits a month plus 2 video calls a month. This will last for 6 months. The next step will be for him to continue that schedule, but to have unsupervised visitation during which he cannot remove him from the area, for another 6 months. After a year, we agreed to have another mediation session to determine next steps, with the goal, his goal, of being able to have my son at his home for short overnights. I'm not even ready to discuss that. He's already suggesting I can come for the first few times. I don't like the sound of it at all. We also have the option to request another mediation before 1 year and something tells me he's going to pull that. I also have an order for child support. While he is in agreement with paying child support, it will have to work through the court system before becoming official and for me to start getting the regular payment. He wrote me a large check in the meantime. I was hesitant to accept it. Not that I don't think my son deserves it, but now I'm just always worried I'll say or do the wrong thing legally, completely unknowingly, and shoot myself in the foot. Like, am I obligating myself and my son to anything by accepting this check? Can he somehow spin this against me? Of course he was not in favor of the 6-month plan, and while he does understand that my son should not just go off with a stranger upon first meeting him, he wishes we could speed it along a little more, but 6 months was what we were able to agree on. He wanted to fly us both to where he lives so he could spend a week or 2 getting to know our son, but I don't feel that's appropriate at this time. Perhaps in a few months, or around the holidays, depending on how things are going. It would be too much too soon. The initial 2 meetings went pretty much just as I thought they would. My son is extremely shy. He wanted to hide behind me most of the time. Then when he would venture out from behind me, as soon as his dad would say anything to him, He would scurry back behind me and just stare at his dad blankly without saying anything. He came out of his shell a little bit, however he has still not said a single word to his dad. He just pretends like his dad isn't there and only talks to me. I will say that his dad is being patient and understanding as far as that goes. If he's frustrated, he's not showing it. He did suggest that maybe our son needs to get out more, go to daycare more of even preschool instead of spending so much time with me and my parents. He's very delighted with how much our son looks like him and how much he favors him over me. The one thing that did bother me is that I already told him I wanted to be very careful and mindful of how we informed our son, this little barely 3-year-old boy, that this man complete stranger is his dad. He said sure, yeah. Then at the first meeting he introduced himself as dad. Since then I've been trying to help my son understand. Like, you know how your grandpa is my daddy, this guy is your daddy. It's so surreal to me that any of this is happening. I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for something to blow up in my face. Now it's just working on accepting our new reality. All of this change is hard and confusing for my son, and it's hard for me. Unless he really fucks up, I'm looking at eventually shared times with my son, spending school breaks and holidays at his dad's house, hours and hours away in another state. It won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen in the most likely reality. I just hope he stays committed. If he can be a good dad to my child, then my child deserves that, no matter how sad sharing him makes me. If he breaks my son's heart, that'll be another story, and I won't accept that so readily. Relevant comments. OP on the times when her son has to go visit his father and what the courts are deciding on. OP answer, they haven't ordered him to visit his father in his state, but eventually, that will probably happen. Talking elementary school age. Worldly promise 675. I hope it all works out as well as it can given the circumstances. Your son and his well-being is definitely top priority. The baby daddy seems really pushy and doesn't like boundaries, so it does not seem he's changed much. OP answer, he's used to getting his way. I'm doing my best to not just roll over but also learn to compromise. Imalela, are you concerned that he may also try to push the idea of reconciling romantically? It sounds like you are focused on your son and he's focused on getting his way. OP answer, I don't know. He hasn't really given me that impression. He's given me compliments. He's tried reminding me of some of the good times we had together. But I see that as all part of his schmoozing to just get me to do what he wants, not to get back together with me. OP on getting a therapist for her son. OP answer, yes, I'm working on finding a therapist for him. I realize I should have started that process before this all went into action.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.